In advance, we would like you to have this apology letter. Oh, I have to do everything myself. So I would like you to accept this apology letter in advance for the horrific movie I'm gonna show you today. It's got a kitten on it, you have to accept it. And given the absolute debauchery that I'm gonna present to your lovely little eyes today, I think you should keep this. Yeah, I think you should keep that, yeah. It's all yours. It's all yours. I've really been putting off even watching Midsommar until like last week when I finally subjected myself to it. So because I am so kind and so loving, now I'm gonna subject it to you. To all of you. And I'm telling you right now, this movie is horrendous. This movie is horrible. Like, content-wise. So your sweet little eyes might come out a little tarnished by the end of this video, but you know what they say, families who get scarred together stay together. So we're all gonna get very scarred here today. And it may be because I have the attention span of a gnat, but the first huge chunk of this movie, first 35 minutes to possibly the whole first hour, was extremely slow. Like the slowest of slow burns. Oh my gosh. And I understand a movie that has this much horrific content, eye-bleeding content, needs at least some build-up, but in my opinion, in my gnat brain opinion, there was a little too much build-up. So because I am so generous and giving, I'm not gonna put you guys through that. I'm gonna give you the condensed Cliff Notes version and shrink like the first 40 minutes of the movie down into a minute. You're welcome. Down into one little palatable bite. So here we go. Danny and Christian have been dating for quite a few years now, but their relationship is kind of already on the rocks and further strained by the fact that Danny's bipolar sister has been going through a lot of issues until the situation with Danny's sister spirals way past the mere melodrama Christian thinks it is, when Danny's sister not only kills their parents, but herself. So Danny's obviously left in a terrible state of grieving because she just lost all her family. So because Danny has been grieving for months, her boyfriend Christian kind of softly invites her to join along on the Sweden trip him and his buddies have been planning. Said buddies being Mark, Josh, and Swedish native Pelle. Pelle having been the one to suggest a Sweden trip so that they could all experience this 9-day Midsommar festival at his ancestral commune. A festival occurring once every 90 years. And Christian just kind of invites Danny because he feels obligated to because she's in such a state of grief. And while him and his buddies are secretly hoping that she does not follow through, Danny does, agreeing to accompany them on their trip, tagging along with them all the way to Sweden for the Midsommar Festival. The Midsommar Festival also actually being the subject that Josh wants to write his college dissertation on. And then they land down in Sweden. I've officially given you the fast pass to where all the fun now begins. Fun. When the squad from America arrives, they meet Simon and Connie, who are a British couple that Pelle's brother Ingmar invited along for the trip as well. Inviting all these foreigners in for the experience of a lifetime. After the introductions and a little bit of rapport building, the group treks over to the commune just in time for the celebration to begin. The commencement of this big special festival that takes place once every 90 years. And after the group of newcomers finish their introductions to the commune, the newcomers all getting a warm welcome and the people there seeming friendly and nice and albeit a little creepy. Not to mention that they're all wearing white and some of them wearing frocks. We're also all very decked out in flowers. And if you're one of the lucky people who has not seen this movie, then you're gonna find out why in a minute. Everyone then gathers around for the Midsommar initiation of sorts, which is a brief, bizarre ceremony followed up by a bunch of group dancing. More so a Swedish conga line of sorts. And all the newcomers eventually join in on the dancing, besides Danny. Pelle coming over to Danny to gift her a portrait he drew of her, because it is in fact Danny's birthday, but Pelle is the only one who remembered. Not even Christian, who is Danny's boyfriend. So Christian is just absolute boyfriend goals. And so since Pelle is a native of the commune and grew up there, as well as Ingmar, his brother, after the dancing is over, Pelle shows the group around the commune, Josh displaying dedicated interest into every tiny little detail because of his dissertation he plans to write on Swedish ancestral festivals. So he's there for both work and play. How about that, There we go, that's more like it. Toward the end of the tour, they spot a yellow triangular building off in the distance, which is apparently a sacred temple that no one is allowed into. And they also just casually pass by a bear in a cage, which Pelle pays little mind to as far as explanations go. He then leads his little group of newcomers over to the shared co-ed, extremely non-private sleeping quarters. So they just all sleep in one big open room together. I don't know if they've heard of it, but there's this fun little thing called privacy. Anyway, I guess they don't think so. Anywho, this is where Pele subtly pulls Christian aside and reminds Christian that it is in fact his own girlfriend's birthday. Where Christian then makes a very lackluster, obvious attempt to pretend that he didn't forget after all. Surprise, babe! But Danny's already very aware that he forgot. Boyfriend of the century. So at nightfall, everyone tucks themselves into their cozy, extremely public beds, with the anticipation of the first of the big ceremonies taking place that very next day. A ceremony that Pele chooses to be suspiciously vague and cryptic about. And don't worry, we'll see why. In the morning, after everyone somehow got even a wink of sleep because there was a crying baby the entire night, it is now time for the first ceremony. And as far as the plot of the movie is concerned, this is where the fun really begins. This is when it officially starts. Remember, fun. And only after a quick morning feast, of course. After the morning meal has concluded, an ancient-looking man and an ancient-looking woman are carried away from the table in thrones, which is how I expect to leave every meal from now on. And then everyone coagulates at the bottom of a massive cliff, the entire commune, as well as the confused visiting group, all except the two old people, who are carried all the way to the top, thrones and all. And just when enough nothingness has happened for the group of newcomers to grow even more confused and restless, the old woman appears at the top of the cliff, and then jumps right off, belly flopping onto a boulder far below, at the bottom of the cliff, right in front of everybody. But don't worry, her face broke most of the fall. We're good. So that obviously freaks the newcomers out, and they're all shocked and stunned and flabbergasted at what they just beheld, while the commune members are completely chill about it, remaining still and quiet and entirely composed in reverent, kind of expectant silence. And this scene is brutal as hell, and they show everything. If I wanted to see an old woman's head bashed in, I'd go to Joann's on Black Friday, okay? Not here. And if that weren't traumatizing enough, a moment later, the old man follows suit. Except instead of the belly flop maneuver that the old woman pulled, the old man kind of pencil dives it, so he miraculously survives because he landed feet first, and consequently, one of his legs has been mashed into mincemeat. And probably both his hips, because, old people can't even step off the curb without breaking a hip. And since this movie has begun handing out trauma like candy on Halloween, this scene only somehow gets worse. Somehow. Amid the commune members' cries and bellows as they're mimicking sounds of pain, a man heads over with a massive mallet and puts the old broken man out of his misery with one fell swing, followed by another swing for good measure, which is then followed up by an unnecessary third. And if the visiting newcomers didn't want to leave before, they sure as hell do now. Especially the Brits, Simon and Connie. But one of the Swedes comes over to try and talk them down, stating that it's just a long-observed custom of theirs, it's tradition, and that these old people have reached the end of their life cycle, and it's an honor for them to go out this way. But her little sunshine and rainbows and circle of life speech doesn't really do much to help the matter. And Danny's especially shaken up because she just had to somewhat recently deal with all the deaths of her family, so she doesn't really want to look death in the face right then and there that soon, or ever, I guess. And despite how scarring and horrific that whole situation was, that first ceremony, the group doesn't leave right then and there. Like, hello? Josh even heading right back to the sleeping quarters to add it to his notes and update his research on Swedish festival activities, I guess, if you could call it that. So it's safe to say that Josh is pretty unfazed, and Christian is pretty unaffected as well, as he, straight after the fact, tells Josh that he's also going to be doing his dissertation on Swedish festivals, and specifically Midsommar, just like Josh is doing. And needless to say, Josh is not too happy about that. Christian is such an ass. Like, copycat much? This flower crown is serving. Petition to get me in Midsommar too. Just kidding, please no, Anyway, while the normal, sane members of the visiting group, pretty much just Simon, Connie, and Danny, are settling down from their trauma trip, the group of visitors who have somehow been convinced to stay, oh, it's just a cultural thing, we don't understand, but it's their culture. You would not find me there saying that. I would have already run to the hills. Guaranteed. They then just all head to bed. Nothing but the sweetest of dreams awaiting them, I'm sure. And during the night, while everyone but Josh is asleep, a redhead Swede who has been eyeing Christian the whole time sneaks an object under Christian's bed. And since Josh was awake and Eve's watching the whole time, when morning comes, he takes the object to Pele, where we learn that the object is actually a love rune, which supposedly casts a love spell. So that redhead over there apparently has the hots for Christian. I mean, Christian is dating Danny, but does Christian even know that? Certainly doesn't act like it. But right then, a bout of angry screaming interrupts their love convo, as it turns out further in the commune that the tree Mark chose to pee on to relieve himself is actually a sacred ancestral tree. And needless to say, they are not too damn thrilled about that sacrilegious, disrespectful act of Mark's. But how was Mark to know? He just had to pee. Meanwhile, Connie, who is one of the only normal visitors there, because she's still hella disturbed from the events of yesterday's ceremony, she rushes back to the sleeping quarters to get her stuff, telling Danny, who's inside, that she's leaving. One of the Swedes coming up to her and stopping her, and telling her that her boyfriend Simon already left to the train station without her, and without telling her, saying that when Simon arrives at the train station, he plans on sending a truck back to collect Connie. Which, come on, sus as hell. And because Connie has a head on her shoulders, she thinks so as well. Sus. I, the judge, ruled that highly suspect. And when Danny goes over to tell Christian what happened, he is less than concerned, more so invested in his research conversation, interested in learning more from a native for his thesis, kind of hesitantly asking the man, "Is inbreeding a norm around here?" But the man tells him, not quite, stating that they often need to invite outside people into the commune to prevent massive amounts of inbreeding, to prevent the commune from turning into the Habsburgs. Though one of the commune's most unclouded, almost prophetic members is a guy who's disabled from intentional breeding. So, after the sound of distant screams that everyone ignores, it's time for lunch! Yay! Which turns out to be some type of pastry pie thing that I know anyone who's Swedish watching this will be pissed that I don't know the name of. I'm sorry, I'm not Swedish. I'm very American. And that's when Danny brings up to the group that she hasn't seen Connie in a hot minute, and eavesdropping Swede further down at the table, butting in to say that he heard that Connie also drove down to the train station, and just left them all without a single word about it. Right. And though Danny is a little sussed out about that, the group just kind of continues on with their meal. Mark getting scorched with the evil eye by the guy at the table across from them, the same guy who was absolutely livid at Mark for peeing on that ancestral tree yesterday. Right as Christian finds something in his food, which he and his fellow group members realize to be a short and curly that is in his pastry thing. Everyone getting grossed out. And in this scene, Mark's over-the-top disgust is funny as hell. But Christian kind of just brushes it off. Flicks it off, I guess. Right after, Mark is beckoned away from the table by a woman, and he's a little confused, but he follows her away toward the surrounding foliage in the background. And then it jumps to nighttime. The remaining group members all fast asleep, except Josh. Well, and Mark, because Mark's bed is empty. So Mark is still MIA, and since everyone is snoozed out, Josh sneaks out of the sleeping quarters into a nearby building to take secretive photos of a book of sacred texts, something he was prohibited against doing the day before. And while naughty Josh is over here quickly snapping those photos, a half-naked dude enters the building behind him, and unfortunately for my eyes, half-naked from the bottom down. Although Josh gets hella jump-scared from the intrusion, his first assumption is that, oh, it's just Mark. It's just Mark, right? But after Josh is bludgeoned over the head, knocked unconscious by someone off-screen, a second person, we see that the half-naked dude is just a man wearing Mark's skinned or scalped face and hair. A Mark mask, if you will. So it's fair to say they were not too happy about the peeing on the tree incident. And after that horrendously awful close-up, Josh's unconscious body is then dragged away. The next morning, only Danny and Christian of the 6 initial visitors awake in their beds, the other 4 being entirely empty. And by the time breakfast rolls around, Danny is curious as to where both Josh and Mark got off to since they're not back by now. But Christian's not all too concerned. Christian is concerned about Christian. And missing friends aside, they continue on with the day's scheduled events. Danny ends up getting coerced to drink some hallucinogenic tea before joining the Swedish cult equivalent of a dance battle, a kind of dance till you drop contest between the women, where the last woman standing or dancing wins. So while Danny and a huge group of girls are dancing their hearts out, while also being a little high on hallucinogenic tea, Christian, who is watching from the audience, is given his own cup of hallucinogenic tea, a special kind which supposedly breaks down your defenses and opens you up for the influence. Sounds trustworthy for sure. Better chug it all down in one go, before even stopping to consider how sus that sounded. Pretty soon, Danny is the last girl standing, or dancing, therefore becoming the winner and being crowned the May Queen, with her own floral crown. And though Danny is a tad confused, no one is as confused as Christian, who looks a little more than out of it by this point, so I don't know what was in that tea. After Danny, the May Queen, is lifted up on a platform and carried away, she is sat head at the table for a congratulatory feast for the new May Queen. Wow. In which Christian is also in attendance of, at least partly, because he's still tripping out into a whole different universe. And after everyone's had time to chow down on their meal, Danny gets whisked away into a chariot, one that's pulled by people. Iconic. One day when I'm queen, that's how I'll choose to get around as well. And Danny is taken away by the human horses so that she can bless the crops and bless their future harvest, because I guess the May Queen has that power. And once Danny has left the vicinity, the woozy, high-as-a-kite Christian, he gets lured away from the feast table, and after he's being coerced to inhale some magical mist from a magical pot, which is probably even more hallucinogenic drugs at this point, he's escorted into a massive one-room building. And you guys really need to prepare yourselves for this next scene. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna PG-13ify it as much as I possibly humanly can, but with this type of scene, there's only so much I can do. In the center of said massive room, that same redhead girl is laying completely naked on a bed of leaves, in front of a line of equally naked women standing behind her, and then Christian is coerced into performing a mating ritual with the redhead. And trust me, that is all the detail you want. These eyes have seen too much. But soon enough, Danny ends up witnessing said ritual for herself through the door's keyhole, which understandably upends her into a type of breakdown panic attack, as she begins sobbing and wailing as other girls accompany her to comfort her and comfort her by mimicking her cries of grief and anger right alongside her, with her. And after the mating ritual is finished, Christian races out of the building, buck naked.
In the nude?
Sorry, SpongeBob. I shouldn't bring SpongeBob into this movie. Ew. And in Christian's rushed, spur-of-the-moment getaway, he witnesses not only Josh's leg sticking out from the garden bed, being used as some type of compost, but after rushing to the chicken coop to hide, this is where he sees something even worse. Simon, the missing MIA Simon, his barely alive, barely breathing body has been strung up in the chicken coop, Blood Eagle style, and just as Christian finds Simon, an elder finds Christian, and quickly blows a powder into Christian's face, which apparently paralyzes him, to the point that he cannot move whatsoever or speak. Like, completely paralyzed. And now it is time for the final ceremony of Midsommar, where we see Danny, the now May Queen, up on the stage, absolutely drenched in flowers, with the paralyzed Christian in a wheelchair by the stage's front, where a commune leader is on stage explaining that they need 9 sacrifices, 9, in order for the Midsommar ritual to be successful and to successfully purge itself from evil or something stupid like that. And since they've already gotten Mark, Josh, Connie, and Simon, 4, plus the 2 earlier cliff jumpers, that's only 6, and they need 3 more. So, any volunteers? You in the back? Don't think I didn't see you in the back. But don't worry, you guys are safe. They already have 2 volunteers picked out, or volunteers who voluntarily volunteered to be human sacrifices. Katniss Knever. Those 2 incredibly intelligent volunteers being Ingmar, who is Pele's brother, and a dude named Ulf. So now 8 of the 9 slots of the human sacrifices have been filled, leaving the final sacrificial victim to be Danny's choice, or the May Queen's choice. She has to choose between a randomly selected commune leader, who was picked by a type of runic bingo selector, or, wait for it, Christian. And who does the May Queen select as the last human sacrifice? Christian, her boyfriend, or a random dude she's never met? She chooses Christian, her boyfriend. What? I mean, yeah, he's a crappy boyfriend, but what? That's not really fair. Not to mention he's entirely incapacitated and paralyzed in a wheelchair. So Danny must still be real mad about that mating ritual she witnessed between Christian and the redhead. But come on, Danny. It was like a whole 30 minutes ago. Get over it. Let the past be the past, Danny. It could also be because Danny is still high on hallucinogenic tea, or maybe all the pollen is getting to her head. I mean, I know it's getting to mine. And no, these are not plastic, okay? We're too fancy for plastic here, okay? Regardless, good old Christian over here, who is still paralyzed, is then lovingly stuffed into the disemboweled body of a bear, the same bear we saw in the beginning. That same lucky little guy, the Christian bear hybrid, then propped into the center of a wooden temple of sorts, as the bodies of the 8 other human sacrifices are situated in the room around him. 2 of those being the volunteers, who are very much still alive and very much fully cognizant. And this next scene, out of all the horrific things this movie made me witness, I think this is the worst. Somehow this is the worst. So bear with me. Bear with me. So then, because this movie is all shades of horrific, the temple is then set on fire. The 3 people inside who were left alive, including Christian, slowly but surely burning to death. And Christian's still paralyzed. Oh my gosh. I mean, the 2 other volunteers, they had it coming. They're just as evil as everyone else there, but I feel bad for Christian. Maybe I shouldn't, but I do. And that's why this scene was so hard to watch. Sure, he's a crappy boyfriend, but he doesn't deserve this. What the hell? And the entirety of the commune, including Danny and her flower getup, is gathered around to watch. The commune members thrashing and kind of tweaking around as they mimic the howls of pain coming from within the burning temple, including that damn traitorous Pele. What an evil, manipulative asshole. He pretty much just invited all his friends along to the Midsommar festival so that they could become the human sacrifices. Screw Pele. Screw Pele. And as the temple burns to the ground, Danny's expression shifts from a type of sadness to disbelief, and then to a smile. The beaming, joyful, psychotic smile of a complete psychopath. And then, thank the heavens, the movie cuts to black, and it finally, officially ends. And I don't know how to feel about this movie other than grossed out and traumatized. And I know a lot of people like this movie or love this movie and praise this movie, but to me, it didn't have a lot of substance other than, like, shock value. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. It kind of just presented itself as shocking because it could be. I don't know. It doesn't feel like there's a deeper story there. I'm not saying there has to, okay? There are a lot of horror movies that are made just for shock value. I know that, okay? It's just that the makers of Midsommar wanted it presented as so much more, which it's really not. At least I don't think so. So I'm not really sure my takeaway of the artistic value of it. I'm a little iffy on it. And I'm not 100% sure how to feel about Christian. I think mostly I feel a little bad for him because, yeah, he's a horrible, crappy boyfriend who really only cares about himself. But I don't think he deserved that ending. I really don't. But Eden, he cheated on her. Yes and no, because he was also highly drugged, so I don't know what level of cognizance he had in the matter. I'm sure he had some, but regardless, his death was absolutely horrific. Definitely one of the most horrific deaths I've seen in pretty much any horror movie in at least a while. And the fact that I don't know really how to feel about this movie is frustrating me. I don't know. I mean, sure, it was gory and horrific and traumatizing, but part of me wants to like it. But then again, a bigger part of me doesn't. But please, you guys, let me know what you thought about it and which side of the aisle you're on regarding this movie. Was it just kind of a gory, mindless shock value fest? Or was it more so deep and artistic and thought-provoking or something? I don't really know. But what I do know is that I never want to see that movie again. No, thank you.